Snowdon from the IEA. And Christopher, your organisation, a highly respected economic think tank, has given this budget the thumbs up.
Well, broadly speaking, and we all have different views, I'm basically in favour of it. What I've just heard from Jonathan actually is music to my ears. The IEA were warning inflation in June 2020, precisely because of the amount of money printing. And there's been a lot of stupid objections to the budget I've heard today, but one of the legitimate ones is that it may further fuel inflation. And one of the most important things right now is to get inflation down. Well, probably the second most important thing is to get the deficit down. But looking in the bigger picture is we've been in a slump for a very, very long time. And I mean, Hillary, who had on before, kind of epitomized the problem, which is that she looks at the budget and says, well, what's this going to do for people in the bottom quintile and so on? Budgets aren't there for that. Not every policy is about making sure that you're handing out money to people in various different parts of the income distribution. We have a welfare state for that. The energy price cap is massively redistributing money. Some policy should be based around generating economic growth. Not everything in this budget, I think, will do that. And in fact, everything in this budget taken together will not really be enough necessarily even to avoid inflation, let alone economic growth. But there is some good stuff in there. There was the idea we should be raising corporation tax was ridiculous. Stamp duty needs cutting. It really hinders growth apart from anything else because people can't move. It reduces the number of household purchases. You'll probably get more revenue actually if you do cut it. The national insurance rise probably shouldn't have happened. It's not a good idea to be taking money out of people's pockets. On the other hand, I think the 45p income tax cut could have probably waited for another day. That's taken all the headlines. I think it's really bad politics to be announcing that. It's only £2 billion. It's not going to make much difference either way. It's possible we might get people pouring over the Scottish border to take advantage of that rate, which would be quite funny. But the optics obviously are not great on that. The 1p off, most people's income tax, kind of a good thing here or there, but don't forget, people's energy bills are at least doubling this winter, even with the price cap. So taking a penny off income tax is not going to necessarily forestall a recession. So I am in favor. The principle behind it is great. It's great that we're having a change in direction. The old way of doing things was not working, and the dash for growth is the only thing that can save us. It's our only way out of the woods is economic growth, but it's going to require a lot more than a penny off income tax. We need to see now a lot of deregulation and dealing with the fundamental problems rather than accepting that we have problems like a housing crisis, like very expensive childcare, and this borrowing money and giving it to people so they can afford these inflated prices. That's been the problem for a very long time.
Christopher, the support for people's energy bills and businesses is expected to cut inflation in half to about 5%. And then it's been speculated, and it's certainly my view, that we will have a shallower and shorter recession thanks to these tax cuts. But what about the currency traders, the international bond markets? What about Britain's credibility? Are we playing with fire with this level of borrowing?
I think the markets will come round. I mean, people have been talking about it being a 45 billion tax cut. It's not. 19 billion of that is not raising corporation tax. It's not a cut if you haven't raised it to begin with. So we're still looking at significant amounts of money, 20 billion this year, 25 billion probably next year. If you assume there are no dynamic effects, if you assume that these things don't actually work, they don't do what they're supposed to do, don't generate growth, which they will. It's a significant sum of money. But if you look over the course of the last 14 years, what we've been borrowing every year, it's not actually that much. And I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm very keen on getting the deficit down. But I do take the argument. I understand, I think, where Liz Truss and Kwasi are coming from on this, which is, we all want to balance the books. But we took a big wrong turn a long time ago with the British economy. We became addicted to low interest rates and money printing and borrowing. And ironically, we might need to do a bit of borrowing for a couple of years while we turn this tanker around.
Okay,
because people won't accept public spending cuts. That's the politics. Yeah. People won't accept austerity. So what can you do? The only thing you can do if you want to bring down taxes, which you need to if you're going to turn the economy around, is borrow to make up for that in the short term.